I am very, very happy to introduce my next guest. I met Keawe Parker on this segment that we did for KHON, United, Not Divided. He really made an impact on me, and I thought, his message needs to be heard. He defines himself as a queer Kanaka maoli born and raised in Uanu, and he graduated 2011 Kamehameha Schools, first attended college studying multimedia communications in San Francisco. CU left Hawaii, Academy of Art University, and then transferred to right, Manoa in 2016, double major, psychology and French. What an interesting mix, during which I love this. I always encourage my daughters to do a semester abroad. La Sorbonne in Sorbonne in Paris. And then, having received your bachelor's in both disciplines, you found a job in public health doing communications and serving. I can feel this. Your passion is serving the Native Hawaiian community, right? You enjoy in your spare time spending time with friends, reading, learning languages. And I love this. This is my daughter, my 19-year-old. Anything superhero related. I think I raised my daughters in, yeah, believing magic and the whole,
Yeah,
right? What
Harry
superpower would you want?
Potter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I always used to say, the power to have peace no matter what happens. And she said that
Mhm.
that's not a superpower. What's your superpower when
Right
you're
now, I would love that
right now?
superpower.
So share a bit about your journey for anyone who had not seen that segment. And my question would be, how can parents or even, teachers, grandparents, aunts and uncles, whoever interacts with children who are enduring similar backgrounds, share your background and did you receive support? Did you not? What was your journey like?
Yeah, so I think I had always, for as long as I could remember, I was attracted to boys, and had crushes on girls, but it didn't really hit me till around middle school when the jokes started to set in, and I started to really understand what being different in the way that I was different meant for the rest of the world, and how painful that was, and especially going to a Catholic school where I was told I was going to go to hell, that I was going to burn in the fires of hell for all eternity. And I'm like 11, 12 years old, and I'm like
Oh my gosh.
freaking out. And to be quite frank, like uh, I started becoming suicidal, and I didn't want to live anymore. Came out to my parents at 13 because they could tell that something was definitely wrong. Um, and fortunately, I was fortunate enough to have very understanding parents who said right out the gate, we love you. We've always known, but we love you. And as long as you're a good person, that's all that really matters to us. But they also made it clear that they didn't want me telling anyone else, um, until I was 18, until I was an adult and old enough to handle everything that would come with, declaring my difference. And so I
So
waited.
you wait living secretly? Did you what message did that send? Don't tell anyone until did you see it as a way that your parents were protecting you, or did you see it
Yeah,
as oh, so you did see it that way, which is
yeah,
what they
and
meant.
yeah, and I didn't find out until years later that that night my mom went into her room after we spoke and cried, not because she was upset that I liked boys, but because she was so afraid of how the world was going to treat me. Because growing up, I was already very, very sensitive, and other kids saw that as a weakness. And so I was picked on for everything under the sun, including being effeminate. So she didn't want one more thing for children to pick on me
Mhm.
for. So Yeah, so later on, I eventually came out my senior year of high school, and ironically, it was the best year ever.
Wow.
I made more friends, and I think at that point, I think I had hit some sort of transition period where kids were no longer bullying each other about that sort of thing, and kind of just saying, "Oh, well,
It was more
eh,
accepted, you think?
yeah, yeah, I think so." Uh, because my brother also went to Kamehameha 7 years after I did, and I remember asking him when he was a junior, I was like, "So are there gay people, bi people, are there queer
Hmm.
people in your class?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Oh, okay." He's like,
Matter of
"Yeah, there are
fact.
trans,
Hmm.
yeah, trans people, non-binary people." I was like, "Oh, wow, okay." And people are, how do people treat them? He's like, "Oh, I don't know, they're cool. Everyone seems
I
to."
think society has evolved, yeah, because my daughter
Yeah.
graduated from Kamehameha in 2014. And so when
Oh,
she
okay, yeah.
chose Redlands, it was the first time when the dorm leader said, I'm a they, and my husband and I were they, because, as when you think of grammar, they is
Yeah, you think multiple
right
people,
plural, and then
yeah.
there were bathrooms that were both genders, right? And I
Mhm.
never, only in Europe I encountered that, and my daughter was like, "What is going on?" Because especially in Hawaii, right? And then it's a total new environment. But I think, and that was 2014, right? You graduated in 2011. So I
Yeah,
think it's slowly, you know what? Don't you think it depends on how they were raised, though? And if their parents
absolutely.
raised them open-minded?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think particularly with, if I maybe, I'm sorry, I didn't answer your first question. But if I may be frank, there's sort of this, I think us as a Hawaiian community are recovering in a lot of ways
Yeah.
from the negative effects of Christian missionary influence and colonialism, and it's essentially white supremacy. And so this idea that men need to be with women and be strong, and need to invoke this, like, embody this
Masculinity,
machismo.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
this Western idea of what masculinity looks like, is not how Hawaiians view gender and sexuality. Because pre-missionary influence, you had Mahu people who held high positions of power. You had men with other men, you had women with other women, and everything was accepted. It was fine. And so, yeah, I think, and I can especially speak for my family. Their growing up was not easy, especially with my extended family members who used to, call me the F word, and say really. I used to play piano, and one of my relatives used to call me Liberace, and I was too young to know who Liberace was, but I was old enough to know that it wasn't a
it wasn't a
compliment.
compliment. It
Right.
should be a compliment because he
Right.
was
Yeah, no, because
revered.
he's fabulous. He's amazing. But yeah.
So, what is your mission? If people said, why is it so important to be accepted? Because some people, with that old mentality where, you know what, I don't know, how do you get people to evolve and accept people with different beliefs? Whether it's something that's not right, because everyone has very strong opinions. Some
Right.
people are open-minded, and some
Right.
people are closed-minded, and some people will, well, many of us pass that on to our future children,
Right.
right?
Well, and I think this ties in now that your first question, how do we approach children
Yes.
who reveal themselves and come out in various ways? Hey mom, I'm gonna be vegan. What? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
exactly. Yeah, that's a big one. Like, what? What am I gonna cook? Because we have, all this. We can't do kalua pig anymore.
Right, exactly. There are a multitude of ways that human beings come out, coming out saying that you love watching reality TV. And I think, especially with children, particularly with children, children are so pure. And I think it's important to let children tell you who they are, not tell
Yes.
children who
Oh
they
my
are.
gosh.
because the psychological, emotional ramifications of you putting children into a box that they don't fit in and spend the rest of their lives feeling like they don't fit in is detrimental not only to them, but their social circles, their community, their families, and society at large, I think.
Well, they lose
Um,
themselves, right? They don't even have an opportunity to discover who they are because they're
right,
told. What if
right,
what if they're pink and then they're told you are green, you will always be green, and then they don't even realize there are other colors out there and they just become this green crayon and then you think,
exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And wouldn't it be like, isn't it also sad to think that there are parents who aren't really connecting with their children because they're connecting with an idea of who their children is or children are, as
or
opposed
should
to
be who their
right,
children
should be.
should be, right? And
Yes,
so, yeah, that's why I
exactly.
believe it's like meet your child where they're at because, suppose your child is at a second grade reading level and they're in second grade, I mean, in seventh grade, right? That happens a lot. And then you think, what did I do wrong? Why aren't you
Right.
studying more? And then you don't realize that alone can just damage their self-esteem. And then you
Mhm.
wonder why they hate school or academics. But
Right.
they're
I mean,
told,
something,
yeah, they're told
yeah.
that you're weak, you're way
Mhm.
below grade level, which means you're behind in life. It's not you're just saying one little thing, but doesn't it transfer into your belief in just yourself
Right. Yeah, I think it's
bigger?
healthier to support children as they present themselves. If your son says he wants to do ballet, let him do ballet and support him. And if at some point he figures out, you know what, I've been doing ballet for 5 years, that's not really my thing. I want to move on to something else. And then you support them in whatever next endeavor they choose, but it at least gives them the autonomy to
Hmm.
discover who they are for themselves, so at the end of the day they can say without question, no, this is who I am. I tried that, wasn't for me, and I know it wasn't for me because I tried it.
Yeah,
And
I
I
love
want to
that.
move in this direction. So
So how do parents, I think the most complicated challenge is to not live through your child, right? I notice a lot of
yeah,
people, if they were football players, you're going to play football. If
right,
they own a gymnastics school, you're going to do gymnastics. You don't
yeah.
even allow them, like how you said, to give them the opportunity. But that is so hard from a parent's perspective, where many of them want their child. You have this dream, right? You have this
Mhm.
dream, and I remember one of my friends said, "I want a child," and I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because I want to take them to classes, and I want to." And I thought, that's not the reason why.
No. Your child's not a toy or an
Yeah, well, I think
accessory.
people, well, especially people in high school, a lot of teenagers who don't feel love.
Yeah,
They want to be a mother because they want someone
yeah.
to love, but they think that someone's going to unconditionally love them
Oh my
effortlessly,
gosh.
and they don't realize the hours of crying. They don't realize that they're not going to feel loved, right? Well, I remember I thought my daughter hated me because she wouldn't cry when my husband held her, and when I held her, I thought, how am I going to raise someone who hates me? But your emotions are triggered, and then
Mhm.
your worth. So that's the next thing. I mean, how do we teach parents maybe not to define their child's worth by maybe external value, whether it's academics or scholarships or, you know,
Mhm.
being
Yeah.
accepted in the,
Recognizing your own ego and
ooh,
is so it's
oh
such
my
a hard thing to
gosh.
do. Even for myself, I mean, like I'm not trying to point fingers or anything like that, but
It is hard, yeah. Even when we
it's
were doing that, when we were on that United Not Divided, I thought,
mm,
am I competent even to participate in this situation? And then you judge yourself, right? And if you judge yourself as a
right.
parent, you don't realize it. But maybe it's a human. Do you think it's just human to just You don't even mean to, right? You look at
Right.
someone and maybe they, I don't know, they make a decision. Like, like I'm trying to eat healthy and I had potatoes and I said, you know what? I just looked this up. I have this oil. We're going to just deep fry potatoes. And I said, I know. I said, no French fries. Well, I'm not buying French fries. And I'm looking at my family thinking, I know I sound like a hypocrite, but that no matter what we do you find yourself judging? Like, what are
Yeah.
the judgments that trigger you from others?
Oh, when people judge me or when I judge other people?
Either one.
Either one.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't even realize, right? I don't realize, like, I'll do
Um,
a math problem and then, they're 12 and I go, how many threes make six? And they're
yeah,
going,
I think particularly
you know,
around, it's funny the way I think one of the ways that I judge people harshly is how they project their own ego onto other people. And that ends up being more about me getting frustrated. It ends up being more about me and my own insecurity about how I project my ego. Um, so I would say that's definitely one way. I think it's so hard. I mean, step one, therapy. If you if you can afford it,
well, and don't you think
therapy.
it's awareness? Because I think that's what
Yeah,
therapy teaches you. If you don't have awareness and you don't
right,
accept, then you
right.
can't really process because you're not aware.
Because you're not able to, you don't have the tools to ask yourself, who is this really about? Is this about them or is this about me? Am I getting upset with this server who took, you know, 2 more minutes longer than I wanted to get me water?
Hmm.
Is that about them or is that about me? Or, am I upset about what's happening in the food line and I don't know why my food is taking so long? And
Yes.
and then you get up and then you realize, oh, we had people call out and we're short staffed. And oh, okay, well, I guess I'm the jerk. Yeah,
Or when people
you
cut you
know
off, my friend says, you know what I say? His wife's in labor. Just
that's
say
a
something.
yeah.
Just say something
That's
that makes you feel better. What if they found out their loved one was diagnosed with some terminal illness, right? Because
yeah.
otherwise you
and
think, how
and
dare you do that?
this sounds messed up, but I love when that happens. I love when the universe, when the world checks me, and I, I get upset for whatever reason, then it's revealed to me that it has nothing to do with me. It is out of my control. In fact, it is like to someone else's detriment. And so maybe I should just calm down.
But that takes a lot of emotional maturity, though, because we
Yeah.
operate, like you said, that the ego drives us. And so the first thing we do is, wait, I stopped at every single red light.
Yeah.
Why right now when we need to be at a certain place? And then you get all riled up and then you think, oh, someone said that. Yeah. Oh, it's an opportunity to practice patience,
Yeah.
opportunity to deep breathe, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm late. That's on me. That's not on the person in front of me. That's
When my daughter said, "Mom, practice being late," because I just get so like oh my gosh, world's gonna end. Because when I tutor and someone's paying me, and I
yeah.
don't I want to be like 10 minutes early, and then you get all like having an anxiety attack, and she goes, "Mom, why don't you purposefully be late and see what happens?" And I thought that made me
Mhm.
feel so. And no one says, "Oh my gosh, you're 2 minutes late," you know.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
one
Because you're
says
in
that.
control of being late.
Yeah.
Then
And I
yeah.
always, I'll stay, 2 minutes later. But the story that we tell ourselves. So,
Mhm.
what story do parents tell themselves when they get upset
Mm,
at hearing the news that they didn't expect? Maybe when you came out, you had very supportive parents, right? Is it
yeah.
based on fear? Like you said, the fear of they might accept it, but like your mom
Mhm.
cried, and I think is it just fear of what your path
Mhm.
might look
Right.
like in her eyes, in her head.
Well, so um, she was around during the 80s and 90s, was in her 20s, and during that time, being gay was a death sentence. It meant that you were going to contract HIV, or the chances of you contracting HIV and dying from AIDS were a lot higher. And so that went through her mind. I didn't know this until years later, but the same day that I came out, and I didn't plan this, um, she loves Oprah, and she was watching an episode of Oprah, and on that episode, she was interviewing a gay man from the South and following all of the things that he had experienced, um, getting beaten to death, not to death, but getting bloodied, and often from family members, from other kids, from random people driving by. Um, and so I think she had this narrative that all of these horrible, horrible things were going to happen to me. And I think especially as a parent, you want to make sure that you dot all your I's and cross all your T's and make sure that you are prepared for anything and everything that could possibly happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I was bullied, but I was never beaten.
Do you have
I was
support?
fortunate enough to,
So do
yeah,
you had support?
I had support from really close friends when I finally came out. But yeah, it's a balance, right? Between recognizing the dangers, the possibilities, all of the possible outcomes, but not letting that overwhelm you and not let fear be the driver of
Yes.
all of your decisions. Um, yeah,
I
I
think
think
that's what
that's
parents do though.
important,
We just go into fear mode,
right?
and then it's like when I
Understandably
say,
so,
yeah, and it's like I'm going to
yeah.
trust the journey, I'm going to trust their journey, and then as I say it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to let's practice what I'm what my last parenting tip was. And
Uh,
and then you realize, wow, that trust.
trust, yes,
Because if
trust.
you knew, right, and your mom knew, oh, Kathy's gonna be fine because I know in my heart that this is not, the negative narrative, which takes a lot of trust.
Right. Absolutely. Like, the trust that I'm going to be supported by my close friends when I eventually
Yes.
do come out in high school, or the trust that I will be able to stand up for myself, maybe not necessarily in a fight, but if someone were to say something that I'm able to speak up and stand up for myself, which I did. I remember I had gotten into an altercation junior year of high school, and I stood up for myself. And um, not people don't really fight it at Kamehameha. I think they're more afraid of getting kicked out and having their
That's
parents,
true. You were at the
right?
right environment.
Yeah, but I definitely stood up for myself, and that was a pivotal moment in my life to find my voice, and so yeah, trust is,
Well, I think when you have that courage to speak out, then your bully, though, looks at you differently and they almost admire your courage, right? Because
yeah,
they're going to fight someone that they think is weak, someone that
right.
right? Oh, it's an easy target. And then when you speak up and you show that courage, it's almost a sign of respect. Right. And
Yeah,
then did
because
you
I
find
called,
that? And then there was
yeah,
no physical, because sometimes, I mean, that's how kids do get kicked out, right? Or they find a safe spot, right? They
right.
find it. There's so many safe spots that I found out later after my daughter graduated where like bad things happen in the band room or different places. And you think, no matter what school,
Yeah,
right? No matter what school, things will be happening in the staircases or behind the tennis courts or, wherever. And
yeah.
so, final words then, what do you think? Do you have like a life motto or something that helps you? And I'm just throwing this at you
Ooh.
when you it doesn't have to be like specific words, but maybe something you tell yourself. It could even be like an affirmation or something when things, a lot of people are going through hopelessness. I just found out from my best friend on Kauai, someone just ended their life last night.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
it's been bothering me, and we're realizing more and more people, right? I might not know them, but when you hear statistics during the pandemic, eight
Oh
year
my
olds
gosh.
8-year-olds in a county in Vegas were taking their lives because of social distancing, the lack of socialization, right?
Yeah.
So what can we what do you say to yourself? So it's not so much advice, but can you share when, when we get into that space where you think, I don't know, and
Yeah.
we all get to that, right? So you have two choices to give in to that fear or that
Mhm.
doomsday, or do you find yourself relying on,
Yeah, if I'm, gosh, if I'm gonna be real, like I think I, the uh, suicidal thoughts have not stopped. Um, I think for my particular situation, it's kind of like this like cognitive habit and a place that my mind goes to when things get hard. It's like, life gets hard, works, I have a stressful day at work, a really stressful day at work, it's where my mind automatically
yeah,
goes. Maybe not necessarily that I want that to happen, but it's where my mind goes, and then I get into
it's a
these
spiral.
spirals.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
Yeah. Um, so lately, some of my tactics, strategies, coping mechanisms is to breathe through my nostril. I
I was
think,
gonna say that the power of the breath, because
oh
I
my
share.
gosh.
I have recently been vulnerable. I wrote an article about the gift of a failed suicide attempt, and I was 30.
Hmm.
And it was, I found out later, if I had not, the paramedics didn't find me, it would have, I would have succeeded. And then, the next year, right, I got divorced, met my husband, had a baby, and I thought, you look back, right, I was 30 and I'm 57, almost 3 decades, and I think you're right. I think once you have that, though, even it's almost like a go-to.
Yeah.
I think I know deep down that I'm never going to do that again, but
Oh my
the
gosh.
fear is
Yeah.
there because you think, what if I go into that black hole? What if, and then
Yeah.
the power of the breath. So do you
Yeah.
immediately, are you aware of that? Because sometimes those thoughts are like, yeah, what if you do? What if
It's
things
so
don't improve?
hard.
What if, you're destined
Yeah.
to be sad forever? And
Right. What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say, and who are you gonna say it to? What's gonna happen afterwards? Yeah, I've been working really, really hard. It really is a practice, but I've been working really, really hard to focus on breathing through my nostrils and not through my mouth. I also will say over and over, um, this won't shake my inner peace. This won't shake my inner peace.
ooh,
Um, and now I can say it so easily, and I know that it's so much harder than that. And I like, as someone who struggles with suicidal ideation, I like, my heart goes out to you and your friend's friend. Gosh, because I know how hard it is when you're in the eye of the storm. It's so hard to look past anything else, and you don't see blue skies at all. Um, but sometimes you just have to sit with it. Like, you reach out if you can remember to anybody, um, and just sit. And sometimes just letting for the moment to pass is enough to get you over the hump, and you see the silver lining. And you may not necessarily feel better in that immediate moment, but enough to not want to.
I truly believe
But
that it really is taking a pause, deep breathing, right? And then I wrote, it's such a common phrase, but this too shall pass. But if you really
yeah,
believe this is temporary, I mean,
right,
everything is temporary, right? But
yeah,
people who do choose that really believe it's permanent. They will be
right,
unhappy permanently. They will be
right,
in fear permanently. And that
right.
is alone cause for, well, what do I have to look forward to? But if you remind yourself, right, like you said, this is not going to shake your
Yeah,
peace and it's in you. I mean, I believe peace is in you, but we just allow our emotions to take control, you know?
yeah. And I realize I'm coming from a place of privilege. Like, I have really wonderful friends. I have uh that are my chosen family. I don't have to go hungry. I don't have to worry about money, for the most part. all of these things that put me in a place of privilege. And I realized that not everyone who is in a similar situation or feeling suicidal is in a similar situation. But yeah, it's so
That
hard to,
gratitude, though, that gratitude. I was just telling my daughter, you
yeah,
know what? Because she's like, I'm so full. I said, you know what? One thing we don't have to worry about is ever starving. She
yeah,
might not like whatever's might be served, but I thought we never. Do you know that? And it's such a, we just take it for granted
yeah,
that there will be food no matter what. You
yeah,
might, if you don't want to cook, then you just go out and, oh no, we have to drive to wherever, but you know that you'll get food and you don't realize that some people wonder, right? During the pandemic, when they closed schools, they opened schools because that was the only meal a lot of kids
right,
knew that they were going to have, right?
right,
Talk about
yeah,
perspective.
yeah. Gratitude, counting your blessings,
So
gratitude.
gratitude, the power of the breath, and
Hmm.
then it's kind of like a mantra or affirmation that, yeah, nothing will
Yeah, not
shake.
shaking my inner
And that
peace.
gives you strength, though. Just hearing you say that, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, and to say it out loud, I think that's
Yes.
important because sometimes you drown in your own thoughts, but saying it out loud verbally is so so
Huge
powerful.
difference. I think
Yeah,
so. And that's why I think affirmations is it's coming back to where it's not like a foo-foo thing, like, yeah, it's one of
right.
those. Yeah, it's really powerful. And I think some people have come from the depths of darkness because they think, oh, and now with YouTube, right? Sometimes you do a 3 minute, like really powerful, get, I don't know, get out of the dumps. Or I always do 15 minutes, like energy meditation or healing, and then it's amazing, right? In 5 minutes you do deep breathing. You
Mhm.
do you write?
I do journal. Yeah, not as much as
Ooh.
I'd like to, but I definitely journal.
Is that powerful too, though? Do you reflect
Yeah,
back? Do you reflect back and read sometimes?
I do. And things that I was so worked up about in the moment at that moment, I'm not as worked up about now, or they resolve themselves, or I have a different perspective on it. But also, like, I can't tell you how often I just drown in my own thoughts, and sometimes I need to do this more. I just moved into this apartment. I live by myself, but I think talking to ourselves is so
It
important.
is. Well, there's
Yes.
books, The Power of Self-Talk, because otherwise, right, we think, oh my gosh, I said something stupid. Oh, why do I do this? I'm destined to
Yeah,
fail. And then you think, stop, awareness, right? Pause and
yeah,
say, like you said, what am I grateful for? Oh, I got to eat today. I have a strong
hmm,
support system.
yeah,
I,
and
wait,
say
there's
it
a
out
lot.
loud so you can
Say it
hear it.
out loud.
Yes,
Perfect
yes,
way. Well, thank you
absolutely.
so much. I've been wanting to do
Good.
this. I'm glad that you are, healthy, and I appreciate the vulnerability because
Yeah,
this takes
absolutely.
a lot of courage. And I mean, I think whoever's in your presence, Calvi, is so blessed because you have this, it's like a natural, like compassion, that energy that you will make a difference. I think you're here to serve a purpose. So whenever you get into that deep hole, which we all do, remind yourself that you have a lot of life to live to give.
Thank you. And I thank you so much for having me speak and reaching out. And I know you said you thought, oh, what am I doing here on this panel?
Oh
And
yeah.
but you have so much to offer. You have so,
Oh,
so
thank
much to
you.
offer. And adding your voice and doing what you do with letting go with aloha is so important for so many people. And so thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, you enjoy your Friday, and I'm sure we will
Yeah,
keep in touch.
absolutely.
Okay,
Take
take care.
care. Bye.
Bye.